Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. A very warm welcome to this important webinar, Hair Literacy, Hair Power, Bridging the Gender Gap in Literacy. My name is Sofia Hadjiani, and I'm very pleased to open this webinar. We have a very rich and diverse agenda today, including several speakers from representing government, civil society, and academia. All our speakers will share concrete examples from countries like India, Africa, Afghanistan, Chad, Pakistan, and the UK. But before I give the floor to our director, Mrs. Isabel Kemp, for her welcome remarks, I would like to give you some housekeeping information, which you can see also now on the screen. You must have noticed that this webinar is being recorded. We have interpretation, simultaneous interpretation available in English and French, so please feel free to click on the globe on the bottom of your Zoom screen to select the language of your preference. We encourage you to engage with the speakers during the Q&A section. Anytime during the event, please address your questions there, your thoughts, and if you have specific questions to be responded by our speakers, please indicate the speaker that would like to respond to this question. Also, keep an eye on the chat. We'll put there several resources and links for your information throughout the whole session. And now it's my pleasure to invite Ms. Isabel Kempf, Director of the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning, to deliver her opening remarks. Isabel, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sophia, and really a warm welcome to all the participants of this webinar. It's a very great pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on women's literacy, co-organized by the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning and the Forum for African Women Educationalists. The theme of today's webinar, Her Literacy, Her Power, underscores the transformative role of literacy in women's lives and also the lives of everyone else in society. It provides really an opportunity for us to reflect on the persistent gender gap in literacy and explore together solutions that can empower women through lifelong learning opportunities. Literacy is a human right for all, yet 2/3 of the 4 million individuals lacking basic literacy skills around the globe are girls and women. They are denied this fundamental human right, which is really a tool for independence, progress, and their human dignity. Face also structural barriers for accessing literacy programs, such as economic constraints, discriminatory social norms, and lack of access to quality education as well. Additionally, in many low-income and crisis-affected regions, literacy opportunities for women remain very scarce, particularly in rural communities, where also traditional gender roles often limit women's education. We have, of course, the very unfortunate and dire situation in Afghanistan, where the Taliban regime severely restricts education for women and girls, and thus violates the country's obligation under the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against women. And the committee has underlined that and made very strong recommendations to the government. Afghanistan had already one of the lowest literacy rates for women globally, and this has now been even further reversed in the recent years. So this reflects really broader challenges posed by policies and structures that systematically restrict gender equality in learning and preventing really many millions of women and girls from realizing their right to education. Because when a woman learns to read and write, she gains more than words. She gains a voice, she gains agency, and the power to shape her future and the future of her communities as well. It really shows that literacy opens pathways to political participation, financial independence, health, and everyone's full engagement in society. Investing in women's education thus fosters lifelong learning and enables them to contribute meaningful to their communities across generations. And here again, I would say intergenerational learning, the role, of course, of mothers and grandmothers in the education and literacy of the future generations is really important. Throughout the Global Alliance for Literacy, which we coordinate in ULA, we are really trying to be at the heart of advancing literacy efforts that center on women's learning needs and opportunities. Around 80% of adults worldwide who lack basic literacy skills live in the 31 member countries of the Alliance. So that's around 600 million individuals. And among those, again, around 63% are women. So this really shows that there is an important gender gap in literacy. So today's webinar is really an opportunity to provide a space for policymakers, practitioners, and researchers to exchange insights on effective strategies for bridging the gender gap in literacy. And in the spirit of the Marrakesh Framework for Action, adopted by more than 140 member states, we really would like to work together with all of you to strengthen policies, expand learning opportunities, and ensure that all women, regardless of their circumstances, can exercise not only their right to literacy, but also to lifelong learning. So as we engage in today's discussions, we would like to reaffirm our collective commitment to make women's literacy and lifelong learning a reality wherever they are. And we would like to make sure that by investing in women's education, we are also investing in a more just and inclusive future for all of us. So I would now like to close by extending my really deep appreciation to Ms. Achana Sharma Avashti, the Joint Secretary of the Department of School Education and Literacy in the Ministry of Education in India, for her presence and valuable contribution to our dialogue. And my gratitude also to all our distinguished speakers and guests for sharing their expertise and insight, and to all of you for asking important and enriching questions in our discussion today. So back to you, Rakat, for the rest of the webinar. And please, all of you, enjoy and participate as actively as you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for the opening remarks, for raising an important emphasis on the collective efforts for improving policies and programs for women's literacy. It's my pleasure now to invite the speakers of the session, first part of the session. We have today two speakers to speak on the advocacy and the policy. The first speaker is Ms. Archana Sharma Avasti. She is the Joint Secretary in the Department of School Education and Literacy under the Ministry of Education in India since 2022. And she is responsible for Samagra Shiksha, Nipun Bharat Mission, Prerana Program, Ulas Nav Bharat Shakta Karyakram, among many other national programs. And the second speaker with us is Ms. Catherine Asego, and she is the Senior Advocacy and Participation Officer at FAWE, where she oversees advocacy initiatives, cultivates partnerships with stakeholders at various levels, and enhances the network's capacity to meet the educational needs of girls and women in the region. Without further ado, I would like to invite the State Secretary, Ms. Avasti, to please take the floor for your presentation. And thank you so much for agreeing to present.
Okay, namaste and good afternoon, everybody, by the Indian Standard Time. I find myself fortunate today to be addressing this international gathering of the Alliance for this great cause of empowerment of women through literacy, and for representing India for that amongst the intelligentsia and the academicians present here. So I would like to present a small presentation giving the status of my country, India, and the leaps that we are making in the area, especially in recent years for the female literacy and their empowerment. So I would like to start with the presentation. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the current status of, no, the earlier one. Yeah. Female literacy in India. So the comparison is from year 2011 to 2024. where the rural literacy has improved from 58.75% to almost 70.4%, and urban literacy 79.92 to 84.9%. And this, I'm talking about the female literacy only. Total literacy has now raised to 74.6%, and the overall literacy, including the male and female, is almost 81%, which is a big spike from 74% in 2011. So, what have we done for that, and how it is happening? Next slide, please. Vasu, battery low. Jaldi. Okay, so like our honorable Pradhan Mantri Shri Narendra Modi ji has said, for Sashakt Nari means the empowered woman. It is said that the women's literacy is fundamental to achieving gender equality, social inclusion, and sustainable development. A literate woman transforms not only her own life but also the future of her family and community, which was also said by Miss Isabel just before me. And on the recent International Women's Day, he celebrated the contributions of extraordinary women and remarked that their determination and success reminds us of the boundless potential that women hold. Today and every day, we celebrate their contributions in shaping a Viksit Bharat, means the developed India. Next slide, please. So, for the purpose of improving the literacy rates in order to make them empowered and make them contribute to the economic development of the country, we have brought in this new scheme called Ullas Nav Bharat Saksharta Karikram, which is a scheme sponsored by the central government but implemented by the states, as education is a concurrent subject in the country. So, the scheme has started from 2022, and as I would be describing in the next slides, we have made a formidable progress in the scheme. So the aim is, as per aligned with the SDG 2030 goals, to achieve full literacy by 2030 and ensuring access to education for all, especially women and marginalized groups. And the scheme is a volunteers driven program based on what we say kartavya bodh, which is knowledge of our duties. So we want people to come out and take, maybe each one teach 5 or each one teach 10 as per their capability, and that is how we want that army of volunteers for this work towards the nation, and not consider it as a obligation or a job, but as a duty towards the nation. So next slide, please. No, the earlier one. Sorry. The earlier slide. Yeah. So the scheme extends educational options to those adults who have never been to school or maybe studied till grade 2 and 3, and because they haven't continued their education, they relapse into illiteracy. So even those people are covered for this. And the age group is 15 and above, because till 14 we have a Right to Education Act in the country, and all children up to the age of 14 are supposed to be in schools. So anyone who is above 15 years of age and is not literate can be covered by this scheme. And then we follow it by the other 4 components, which is critical life skills, basic education, vocational education, and continuing education, which is that once they become basic literate, they learn to read, write, and numeracy. Then we can connect them to open schools, which can carry forward with grade 2 or grade 5 equivalency, so that they can continue their education after that. And Ullas in Hindi, which is a language, it means joy. So Ullas translates to joy of learning, and the full form is understanding of lifelong learning for all in society. So this name itself is so catchy for our people that I have been hearing things like ki Ullas, we go to the scheme with Ullas, because it means also joy. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the key features of the scheme are that it runs in hybrid mode. We had started off in digital mode, but then we realized that not everybody has an access to a digital device or a smartphone or a smart TV. So now we are also doing it in physical form. So we have places called Samajik Chetna Kendras, which are centers for education, where the volunteers and the learners, they come and then they use either a TV or something, or also copy paper mode to learn, read, and write. And as I already said, volunteer based. Now, because it is without any payment, so what could be the motivation for anybody to come and give their time and energy and resources to teach somebody else? So we have passed on advisories to all universities and colleges that the students who are volunteering for Ullas will get credits against their courses, so that they have some incentive to make other people literate and also take them to give the exam. Similarly, we have a system of giving them certificates or maybe some kind of felicitation, like on Independence Day in a village, if there is, they have to hoist the flag. So a volunteer who has done for the maximum learners will be given that opportunity. So things like that are coming up, very innovative methods in various places, how to motivate the volunteers, which is a big challenge. And then we have a foundational literacy and numeracy assessment test that is twice a year. And then we give them certificate of literate. So that certificate also, as we have found with many learners, they like to frame it in their houses because maybe they are a first generation learner. So that acts as a big motivation for learners to come out. Next, please. So the aims are empowering women through literacy for Viksit Bharat, that I said, to ensure 100% literacy. We are targeting districts with low female literacy and prioritizing areas where female literacy is below 60%, so that we can give them focus interventions, and also giving them critical life skills like financial, digital, legal, and health literacy. Followed by some vocational skill training, so that if they are not into economic area, then they can venture into making new jobs. Next, please. Recently, with the help of UNESCO and other civil society organizations, we have come up with this new definition of literacy in Indian context. It aligns with the international definition given by the UNESCO also. So we say that literacy is the ability to read, write, and compute with comprehension. That is to identify, understand, interpret, and create, along with critical life skills such as digital literacy, financial literacy, etc. So we have basically covered a gambit of minimum requirements for a person to become productive and to learn more about the world. Also, full literacy we have defined as achieving 95% literacy in a state or union territory, which may be considered as equivalent to fully literate. Because again, we realize that 100% literacy is never possible. Even in the countries which claim that they are 100% literate, there might be people who are maybe unable due to mental health challenges or physical health challenges and cannot become literate. So we have kept a reasonable amount of 95%. Also, there might be people who are octogenarians or nanogenarians who will not be able to learn this new skill now. So, and I'm happy to also say that already one union territory has declared itself fully literate last year, and another 8 will be doing in this year from April to December. Another 8 states and UTs will become fully literate. So, we are on our path. Next, please. Somebody can please just let me know before 2 or 3 minutes that my time is getting over. So this exam that I talked about, the FLNet, which is the Foundational Literacy Assessment Test, we have had total females who have appeared in this exam in the last 2 years. There are 7.6 million ladies have appeared. And the total learners who have appeared, including males, are 12.8 million. So we can see that more than half of them are ladies, approximately 60%. Next, please. In the school education also in India, the GER, the general enrollment ratio, is equal for girls and boys. So if we have 100 students in school, 50 are girls, 50 are boys. So that way, the coming generations are getting literate. It is the old ones which have been left out that we are trying to now cover up with Ullas. This is about the various schemes. I think the presentation will be shared with everybody. You can go through it. Next one. Lakhpati Didi initiative. Now, lakh is 100,000. So, Lakhpati Didi is to make females having an income of 100,000 per year. So, that is the aim of this new scheme. And it is a very transformative scheme again, where women are being made to learn entrepreneurship skills by making self-help groups. So, we are also targeting now those self-help groups for females who are not literate there. because these are the ones who are already motivated enough to go for a earning and income. So we are trying to make them literate also. I think this will be a big factor that we will go ahead with. Next, I will give you two examples of what Ullas is doing. So this is this lady, Rukaiya Khatun. She's from a state called Jharkhand there. And she's a neo-literate woman now, and she faced hardships after her husband passed away. So she was trying to make her living as a vegetable vendor and a tailor who is making small stitching and sewing jobs. So then she came to know about Ullas. We joined her in the scheme, and she has now learned to read and write, and she manages finances also. Now she is running her business independently and manages her accounts and transactions and all. And she's saying that she's able to feed a family of 4 to 5 people easily now, only because she could learn to read and write. So it is a real example of how literacy is transforming lives. Next, please. This is a volunteer from Kolar in Karnataka. I myself met her, Kalpana. So I asked her, ki, what made you volunteer? So she said that she was married at a very young age and could not complete her education, but she always wanted to be a teacher. So she said, this scheme has given me an opportunity to fulfill my dream of becoming a teacher. She goes out every day. She collected all non-literates of her village, and her whole village is literate now. There is not one single illiterate person. She made all of them give the exam, and these are her own words, that this experience has filled me with happiness and confidence, proving that I too can succeed. So this I too can succeed should be our motto in making all females literate, because till the woman of the house is not empowered and is not confident and is not literate enough, society cannot move further. So that's what I wanted to share with you all. I can take any questions now or later, as is okay.
Thank you so much, Ms. Avasti, for this wonderful presentation on some of the important policy as well as program initiatives at the central federal level, but also at the different levels in India to promote the women literacy in the country. And I would like to congratulate also the country's efforts to increase women and girls literacy in the country, and for all the commitment at the policy level you have been providing for these women to achieve, and as you said, to also succeed in life. I just want to highlight a couple of notes before we go to the next speaker, Ms. Avasti. There are some questions which
Sophia, I would also like to add on that India would be very happy to assist or extend support to any of the countries which would like to move forward in any scheme like Ullas.
Okay, thank you so much for this. Also for acknowledging the India's interest to support also other countries of the alliance. I am sure that there are a lot of other countries which would be interested in collaborating with India. And I'd like to also bring to your attention that there are some questions already in writing. We won't have, unfortunately, time to respond live. Ms. Avasti, could you please respond to some of them in writing? It is already in the Q&A section. Okay. I want to highlight a couple of things now in terms of your presentation. Yes. India is committed at the highest policy level to continue improving women's and girls' literacy situation in the country. It has already done so at the formal education for girls, and it's doing also to enable women of older age to avail these opportunities and expand their opportunities to participate as well. I would like to also highlight the importance of literacy as defined as a lifelong learning, from a lifelong learning approach, because as you said that we are moving away from defining literacy as a skill to achieve in a short period of time, to the one which actually allows us to improve as the demands for literacy is also changing with the change in the economy and society in general. I also want to highlight India's efforts to ensure that targeted and focused interventions are in place, particularly for the literacy, low literacy for women and girls in the rural areas with specific districts as well in mind. And I think such efforts also help to really reach out to the most disadvantaged communities and groups of women, in particular in the country, and for your efforts to ensure that we also know about the quality of this learning and the programs through the functional literacy and numeracy tests and assessment you are doing. And lastly, I want to highlight the wonderful connection you made in terms of ULAS, meaning joy of learning. We know very well that learning is also has to be motivated to engage participation of the beneficial groups. And I think such words have a powerful impact as well, and can be a psychologically motivating factor to engage more women in the program. Thank you so much. And I would like to now go to the next speaker, and I would like to invite Ms. Catherine Asego to please share the experiences and work of advocacy as well as activities at the country level of the members of FAWE to advance women's and girls' literacy in Africa. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much. Good day, everyone. I am currently in the Southern African part of Africa, so I will say good afternoon. I would first of all like to just start with the words that my previous speaker has talked about. I too can succeed. That is very powerful, and that is where I'm starting from. So next slide, please. I'll be talking about some of the contributions that FAWE has been able to have over the years in terms of promoting and supporting literacy for women and girls. So a bit of background about FAWE. FAWE stands for the Forum for African Women Educationalists. And essentially, FAWE was founded in 1992 by 5 female ministers of education. And we operate across 34 national chapters in 33 countries across the African continent. 34 because we have 2 chapters in mainland Tanzania and also a chapter in Zanzibar. And we also have presence in approximately 12 GAL countries, and the countries are named there. So in terms of our founding members, we have our founding members who are from Seychelles, Gabon, Zimbabwe, Ghana, and Burkina Faso. For us, it's usually very important to recognize that. Next slide, please. So for us as FAWE, really, we view literacy not only as the ability to read and write, but also as the ability and capacity to be able to access, understand, and use information for empowerment, especially of women and girls, and also towards lifelong learning and active participation in society and development. And for us, we really believe that true literacy must reflect the lived realities and also in languages and cultures of our learners. And one of the things, especially for girls and women, we really promote literacy that goes beyond the classroom setup. So for us, we look at integrating life skills as well as advancing access to education information so that women and girls can be able to make decisions that affect them, their education, as well as their reproductive health and rights. And we also advocate for literacy policies and programs that really essentially are equitable as well as transformative and also accessible to all, because we believe in leaving no one behind. So we also focus our interventions to target marginalized communities in rural areas as well as children with disabilities and also learners who have been affected by conflict in one way or the other. So essentially, by championing these inclusive policies as well as responsive literacy practices, we really believe that we are contributing to building pathways where that our African girls and women can be able to take charge and lead change in their communities and beyond. Next slide, please. So essentially a bit of some of the legal frameworks and policies that support literacy of women and girls across Africa. So the first one I'll talk about at the regional level is the Agenda 2063. And essentially, this is Africa's economic blueprint that talks about having educated citizens who then are able to contribute to skills revolution and also looking at how they can be able to do this by underpinning science, technology, and innovation. The next one is the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Essentially, it's popularly known as the Maputo Protocol. So this particular protocol guarantees the right to education and training, and also elimination of discrimination against women in education. So the Maputo Protocol encourages the promotion of literacy among women as part of the broader empowerment spectrum. And when you look at the Africa Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, currently I'm in Maseru, Lesotho, where we were meeting with the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. So essentially they're celebrating 35 years since this particular charter was adopted. So the charter talks about under Article 11 that every child has a right to education. And it also prescribes the different measures that the African Union member states who have ratified this particular charter must undertake to make sure that they achieve this particular right. When you look at the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, it talks about teacher professional development as being very critical in terms of improving education, actually literacy, and also looking at improving foundational learning, strengthening access to quality education, and giving an opportunity to provide a second chance program for lifelong learning. When you look at the African Union Digital Transformation Strategy, it talks about promoting digital literacy and inclusive digital education. And it also looks at aims at areas of how to bridge the digital gender divide, which is very critical, as my previous speaker has also mentioned. Then in terms of the different national policies and frameworks, we have governments across the African continent who have adopted now these regional frameworks and also adopted these into their national frameworks to promote literacy for women and girls. Next slide, please. So some of the interventions that FAWE has put in place to be able to support the literacy programs, one of them is the gender responsive pedagogy model. And essentially this particular model improves it actually responds to the unique learning needs of girls and boys in the classroom, because we strengthen the capacities of teachers, but as well as the school managers and leaders, for them to be able to look at what are the unique learning needs of boys in the classroom, what are the unique learning needs of girls in the classroom, and be able to really put in place interventions that then respond to this need. So the topics include language use. As the previous speaker has mentioned, language is really important and critical. So this particular model really promotes that. Then in terms of mothers clubs, essentially mothers clubs promote intergenerational dialogue between elderly women in the communities with the young girls. So through these mothers clubs, we are able to ensure that the community participates in the promotion of education for the girls. So these mothers clubs, some of them even set up study groups, tutoring lessons, and also mentoring the girls, thus contributing to their retention as well as their performance in school. So we also offer comprehensive scholarships in a bid to be able to really reduce the financial burden that is associated with leaving learners out of the school environment. So through this, we link them as well with the job market and opportunities for them to not only be job seekers, but also provide for jobs and become employers. Our flagship project in Uganda is called the Higher Education Access Certificate, which was actually adopted as a fourth pathway into accessing tertiary education. So this is a bridging course that essentially enables women and girls to be able to access institution of higher learning. So we give them that particular opportunity, and we have really seen a lot of them really pursuing STEM-related courses. Our STEM model also enables us to increase access to participation of women and girls, especially when it comes to STEM subjects. So this is one of the ways in which we challenge the negative stereotypes that surround STEM, and also STEM women participation in STEM subjects. Digital literacy has also been mentioned during the previous presentation. So in countries like Rwanda, we have the Rwanda Career Center, and essentially through this we are able to strengthen the capacities of women in the community with digital learning trainings so that they can be able to be empowered and also start thinking about how they can set up businesses. In terms of EdTech solutions, this is something that we realized was very critical during the COVID-19 pandemic. So in countries like Nigeria, we were able to work with UNICEF and other partners to set up learning by radio initiatives, but also setting up community learning hubs, essentially, which are resource centers within the communities, as a way of also making sure that the communities are part and parcel of supporting girls in terms of their access to education. Next slide, please. And also FAWE's Center of Excellence. Essentially, this is an institution that clearly and effectively looks at how to demonstrate that for us as FAWE, we really believe that for us to be able to support girls, we look at the education as holistic. So through the Centers of Excellence model, we integrate different approaches towards addressing the problems that girls face in their quest to access education. So we look at the environment holistically and make sure that we enable learning and teaching in an environment that is very friendly and also responsive to the needs of girls. So we look at the physical environment within the school that promotes literacy. We look at the responsive social environment, Then we also look at the academic environment. How do we make sure the teachers are able to perform and also support their learners to be able to gain the skills that they require? And finally, we look at the academic environment and the holistic approach that then we look at as terming it as the Centers of Excellence. So in a nutshell, those are just some of the interventions that FAWE has been able to put in place over the years to support literacy for girls and women. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you very much. I'm more than happy to share my contacts as well, so that in case anyone has any questions or needs a follow-up, we can be able to see how together we can be able to share learning, but also strengthen literacy to make sure our girls and women benefit fully from education. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sego, for this wonderful presentation on the work that FAWE is currently contributing in the region. And I would like to thank also FAWE for the participation in the GAL, in the Global Alliance for Literacy platform, as one of the associate members of the network. And I just want to pick up a couple of things which, Catherine, you have highlighted during your intervention. The importance of having regional, in this case, continental legal frameworks, but also policy frameworks that help advance women's literacy, not as an issue of national only attention, but at the regional, continental level as well. And for naming some of the important frameworks such as Maputo Protocol, Agenda 2063, and many others, including national frameworks, to support the work in general for the agencies such as yourself, but also for many stakeholders that operate in the region to help girls and the women avail their opportunity for learning. I just want to reiterate what you have said also. Literacy is not just being as a matter of educational program, but it's also as a matter of human rights. And I think that's, again, as an important reminder for all of us, that not providing opportunity for women and girls to improve their literacy, develop their literacy, is something that we need to take it as seriously as other human rights of the citizens, but also human beings. I just want to also important statement you made related to the interventions that you have referred. One specifically, I was very interested to learn, maybe a participant will be interested to learn more, is the Mothers Club and the Learning by Radio initiatives in some of the countries that you have been working with. And I think such examples really highlight that interventions have to be contextually specific, innovative, culturally embedded, I think, because that will connect a lot of participants to the programs that we initiate and work in the regions, in the countries, in the communities we serve. Thank you so much. I have seen a lot of questions already. I would like to request Catherine to please kindly respond in writing, because I may have to move to the next part of this session and invite my colleague Sofia Hadziani to moderate the remaining part of the session. I would like to thank Ms. Archana Sharma Avasti, the Joint Secretary in the Department of School Education and Literacy under the Ministry of Education in India, as well as Catherine for Senior Advocacy and Partnership Officer at FAWE for wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sophia.
Thanks a lot, Rahat. Thanks a lot. Thanks also to the previous speakers for setting such a strong foundation. We started already with a national policy experience from India and the regional advocacy efforts from FAWE, as Rahat highlighted earlier. But what does it look like when the policies now are translated into action on the ground, especially if we talk about fragile contexts, crisis-affected contexts, or remote communities? This part of this session will bring us now into the heart of the program implementation. We will begin with chat, and we will see how can we design literacy programs that go beyond reading and writing to support women's empowerment in real and lasting ways. So I will be happy now to invite Mr. Jansrangar Jamanjibeya, I'm really sorry for the pronunciation, coordinator of the French Farmers and International Development in Chad, to speak about the functional literacy of women members of farmers organizations in Chad. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Merci à tous et à
Thank
toutes.
you. Thank you, everyone, for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today about our functional literacy program for women members of farming organization. With the participation of Aster International, the Lead Chat Association, the CNCPRT, ATICOR, amongst others. What is the context that led to the implementation of this project? Well, first of all, the data made available by UNEP in 2021 with the Human Development Index that ranks Chad in the 190th position out of 191 countries, with a literacy national rate of 32% for women and 48% of men. And in rural areas, that's actually lower. 14% of women are literate versus 47% for men. So this further increases gender inequalities. And here I'm also referring to access to farming resources. Illiteracy is a barrier for women and the advancement of their social and economic status. Faced with this situation, we answered to a call for projects launched by the AFT as part of a 4-year project. We are not necessarily literacy specialists, so we tried to apply literacy to our own context. So to bundle this together with a farming knowledge, with a number of techniques allowing us to apply literacy to development. If we can move on to the next slide, please. This project was implemented over a period of 4 years, and throughout these 4 years, well, in the first place, we organized a gender-sensitive territorial diagnosis to look into the trainers to be shortlisted, to look into the places where we wanted to operate, to define our literacy methodology, and to train our trainers and shortlist the learners. During that first year, we also made sure to take into account the social and cultural context as part of the implementation of the project, and we identified the barriers and pain points that may be an obstacle to literacy programs for young women and girls. So we focused on that aspect as well. Now, there are a number of illiterate men, for example, who might be scared that their spouses might learn how to read and write, and so they might not feel comfortable that their spouse may go on to become literate. So that was an example. During the second year, we launched our first literacy campaign, and also we launched a number of training, technical training programs. And we implemented a number of stock management programs, accounting programs, in parallel with the literacy program, so as to help women further their status and to pull through until the end of the project. During the third year, we launched our second literacy campaign, and we also trained our bridging farmers. And we had our national exchange workshops that we organized, and an awareness campaign as well. During year 4, this was our third literacy cycle, and we were able to take advantage of everything that had been done before, and that's when we also had our political advocacy campaign.
Je présente un peu les résultats des activités. Donc, pour le premier résultat, nous avons ici une initiative d'alphabétisation durable adaptée aux besoins des agriculteurs.
So the first result was an initiative adapted to the needs of Chadian farmers, with a guide that was written, a literacy guide that would compile all the different themes that had been identified during the first cycle. And then we started a training of trainers, the trainers who would be then teaching the course. We had 3 tools for family farming advice course. So that has to do with all the needs of a family, of a farming activity as well. And then one workshop in action and reflection in action. I'll talk more about this later. So that also took notes of what was done during these workshops. And at the end of the scheme, the women who passed all the different workshops were given a certificate. For result 2 of literacy and capacity building of women farmers, members of farming organizations. So 2,716 people have participated in the literacy initiative, and among them 2,657 were women. We specifically wanted to target women in particular, but we didn't close the door to men who wanted to participate as well. And among these people, 1,661 people successfully passed and got their certificate after 3 years. And 1,171 people sat for that test, and 1,033 passed. So we added also additional tests, rubrics on the tests for specifically farming, family farming, and 858 women passed. When it comes to result 3, we have 120 farmer leaders who have been trained to leadership and associative life, or community life. We also have the women's constituency at the national level that was boosted. 59 women farmers were trained in family farming. So now they are leading 69 groups. So 1,200 people are being beneficiaries of these groups, and 80 women farmers are now trainers, and they have been trained in facilitating workshops, the Reflection Action Workshop. And they also are trained now to talk and raise awareness around the themes that the advocacy themes that we have identified, especially having to do with women issue. And I'd like to go back to the methodology that we chose. Why did we choose this method? Well, because it allows us to focus the teaching on the learner. The learners are at the center. So you can imagine that during a course, a woman comes crying because her husband beat her, then that will become the theme of that day. Because we put the women in a circle and they can discuss a different topic, and then learning and writing skills just come naturally from the topic that is being discussed that directly concerns them. And so the learning is really based around the learner and the topics that are important to the learners and also suggested by the learners themselves. So they can learn what is of interest and what they actually require as socio-economical need. So like I was saying, the topics have been pre-identified during the diagnosis phase in coordination with the farmers' organizations. So of course, agriculture, transformation, community life, and also Council on Family Farming. There's also a number of activities having to do with the relationship between men and women, and focusing on the members who do not have literacy skills. The languages that we have been using are the local languages, as you can see on the screen. And the resources that we use, we don't use usual reading material, traditional reading material, but we created our own guide that was designed specifically for the trainers and the farmers. This project has been implemented only in 2 parts of the countries, in Logone, in eastern Logone, in 12 communities, and in the Mandoul in 12 communities as well. We decided on a transversal, cross-cutting gender approach to start questioning the gender roles and the relationship between men and women. Because if you know a little bit the Chadian context, you know that women are rarely associated with decision making, and they usually are assigned to home duties. Boys usually are encouraged to go to school, whereas girls not so much, and are more encouraged to work in the home and then get married early, to then work in the home of their husband. And so we had to take into account that context. So with workshop for women, for empowering women, but also workshop for men, so that they are aware of the needs of women, and so that they'd be also supportive of women learning. And we want to start from a young age, because we want the kids to start questioning these gender roles from a younger age, so that before the discrimination takes root. And we have been exploring strategies to talk with men, to convince them that women learning is a good thing. And at the end of that series of workshops, a number of men have decided that they would take on some home duties so that the women could have free time to learn. So beyond literacy, in terms of results, we also had an initial diagnosis, but also a baseline study that was done to get the figures, and we noticed that there was a satisfaction rate of 98% among the spouses of the women learners. We had men who would spend a lot of time just drinking alcohol and getting in fights, and because of the change that happened within their family through their wives have changed their behavior. There's a better also sharing of home responsibilities between men and women. And that fear that men had expressed, that if their women got an education and were learned to read and write, they would leave them, that fear had evaporated by the end of the program. Because now even the men will tell their spouse, well, you need to learn to read and write, and don't you have your class today? You need to go to your class. So they've really understood the necessity of having women also learn to read and write, learn also basic skills in medicine, to know how to give the children their medication, etc. And so men have really come to understand the importance of women's literacy. In terms of challenges, we have faced a number of challenges during this project to do an individual follow-up with the learners. We have figures about results, but to be able to really know what changes happened individually with each learner, that is more difficult. Even though we did a live story with a number of the participants to have a better idea of the impact of the program, but there's also real difficulty to make this initiative sustainable, because there's a big cost associated with the actions, and so without the support of a financed project, it will be harder to maintain the project, the initiative, especially for women who have kids and who are not necessarily going to school yet, where they need to have childcare available for them to continue attending the courses. So there would be many other things to say, but my time is limited, so I just wanted to give you the big outlines. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Dzambadzibeye, for this insightful presentation. Actually, we have seen how literacy is linked with other areas, and you clearly presented to us that literacy does not stand alone. You adopted an integrated approach to literacy by combining farming and also leadership and family roles, and all this becomes more than a skill. It becomes a tool for agency. And you highlighted actually that by this approach, learner-centered approach that FAWE also highlighted earlier, you managed to reach out to 2,600 women, as you said, even more. And this also takes us to see how we can scale up and sustain such efforts, even in low resource and rural settings, like also through community ownership with local facilitators. And most importantly, you also mentioned like how important it is to work with local partners and in the area of farming in your case. And also would like to highlight that you use the local languages, and also that you developed yourself tailored, contextualized learning materials and teacher guide to make the learning relevant to and to respond to the needs of the female population of your region. Thanks a lot. We will now turn to Afghanistan. We'll proceed with the next speaker, where the challenges are profound and deeply related to gender, a context which has been shaped by political and gender-related complexities. Yet there, too, dedicated actors are striving to uphold the right to education many years now and to promote women's learning in ways that respond to their urgent needs. Given the current restriction on girls and women's education, how can literacy opportunities continue to serve as a pathway for hope, resilience, and opportunity? With that question, I would like to invite our colleague from UNESCO Kabul office, Mrs. Arzang Yousefi, Project Officer and Team Lead of Youth and Adult Literacy and Basic Education, to talk to us about implementing literacy program for women in Afghanistan. Arzang, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sophia. You raised a very important question and a difficult one to answer, but I'll try my best to say a few words about a program that is very close to my heart here in UNESCO Kabul. Can we go to the second slide, please? Thank you. I'll start with a bit of context, although Sophia touched upon it a little bit, and as well as Isabel in the initial remarks, that when it comes to gender equality in terms of access to education, Afghanistan might be one of the worst case scenarios globally. Meaning that based on policies of the current de facto authorities and administration, women and girls beyond grade 6 are not allowed to access educational settings, be it formal or non-formal, to a great extent. As a result, more than 1.5 million girls and women are affected by this ban, and it increases annually because every year around 400,000 girls who graduate grade 6 will not be able to pursue education because of this ban. Afghanistan chronically is also suffering from low literacy rate. Globally, it's one of the lowest countries with overall literacy rate being only 37.3%. There is a very grim gender disparity in this rate, meaning that only 22.6% women are able to read and write in comparison to 52.1% men. Among women across different geographical locations, the disparities even is greater. In the southern part of Afghanistan, we have got provinces where literacy rate for women stands only at around 1%. We don't have updated data, but we are trying our best to respond to the situation as well as we can. Moving on to the next slide, I'll speak about the context a little more. Speaking of the need on the ground, there is an overwhelming demand for literacy and basic education, especially among adolescent girls and young women, because of this lack of access and also because of the chronic challenges that the literacy and education sector as its entirety is experiencing. When it comes to the capacity of the current administration to respond to the need on the ground, the literacy subsector is underfunded with limited capacity. There are only around 69 literacy schools across the country, only available to men and boys. And these 69 literacy schools suffer from infrastructural problems. We are also dealing with the challenges of working and coordinating with an unrecognized government on the ground. There are lots of considerations to be taken into account when it comes to working with them or engaging with them for us to ensure that there is some sort of space available to work with communities and deliver the literacy program that we have. Next, please. Okay, in order to address some of the needs on the ground, because UNESCO is not in a position to address the needs across the country, UNESCO has been providing over the past 2 decades a dedicated literacy program targeting youth beyond the age of 15. We have seen that there is a sort of shift in terms of age group who are willing to participate in our programs, meaning that younger generation and cohort of children, and especially girls, are sort of interested in participating in our programs because there is no other educational space available for them. The program is comprised of 3 levels. We call it youth and adult literacy and basic education, which is evolving, by the way. I'll come in a minute in what we mean by evolving. The program initially involved level 1, which was recognized and is recognized as equivalent to grade 3 of general education and formal education. ELB level 2 is equivalent to grade 6 of general education, meaning that once an individual completes this level, they will be able to pursue further when the situation permits. Level 3, which we have been working on for now, it's a work in progress, will be sort of able to provide a certificate to the learners, which will be equivalent to grade 9, hopefully. In addition to this sort of package, a consolidated package, we also have a skills-based literacy. In our skills-based literacy program, learners or individuals who have either completed our level 1 or have some sort of basic literacy and numeracy through self-learning or through accessing other pathways will be able to benefit from this program. At the moment, we cover 8 skills areas. I'll not go into details of what those skills areas are, but I'll be happy to provide further details if anyone was interested. As a cross-cutting theme for our program, we implement social emotional learning training. We also provide some level of training to different communities who are affected or at risk of being impacted by climate change, for example, or earthquake or floods, disaster preparedness and risk management training. We also provide learners with some sort of psychosocial support. And also the program has got this very strong component of social mobilization, meaning that you work with communities to help them support the program for us to have this conducive environment for the program to be implemented. Next, please. When I talk about implementation or operational model of the program, I would like to highlight one key component of this, which is our community-based approach to program implementation. Since the power shift back in 2021, we have shifted our direct implementation with the government towards a community-based approach. We have been establishing village literacy committees in every village where we establish literacy classes, and the space for the class is provided by the literacy facilitator. Because of that sort of contribution from the community, there is a huge support for the program to sustain and also to run smoothly. As I mentioned, we target youth and adults beyond 15 years old, but this cohort has been shifting, and we have seen more younger girls who are participating in our classrooms, but we don't close the doors of our literacy program to anyone. We sort of either as voluntary learners or as registered learners, they will be participating in our program. We work with local implementing partners in the absence of a legitimate government, and it requires a lot of capacity building because this sort of modality of working in Afghanistan is relatively new, because we used to work with the government, right? They were the main implementing partners, but now they are local organizations and communities. So it requires a lot of capacity building programs that we are delivering. The program also has a dedicated M&E system, which includes some level of assessment for us to understand the learning achievement of the students. Next slide, please. So the program provides different pathways to the learners. The first pathway is that once a learner graduates from our level 1, they will be able to move on to level 2. And level 2, hopefully, will be able to move on to level 3 once it's in place. And also the ones who complete level 1 will be able to access our skills-based literacy program and also other livelihood skills development training with a view for them to be able to participate in economic activities or just for self-development and self-reliance and also agency. We have got a number of projects upcoming for which we are trying to repackage the current program to strengthen the focus on skills development with a view to make the program more relevant to the daily life of learners we engage with, especially girls and women. Next, please. Okay, speaking of our coverage, over the past 2 years, we have been able to engage with 55,000 youth and adults, and of this, 68% are women and girls who have benefited from our literacy-based literacy program and also other skills development training that we have. We have been able to train 3,700 community-based facilitators, more than 1,000 master trainers, and also we have been able to transform our content of literacy program into audio and video formats, which will be helpful for us to disseminate them through other means rather than only printing and distributing. We have covered 20 provinces as of yet. In pursuit of improving accessibility, we have also worked with our colleagues at UIL to develop this fantastic course, which is called FAWE, Family and Intergenerational Learning, and it's in Pashto language. We have also been conducting various studies to understand the context better and also be able to inform future programming with a view to make them more relevant and effective. Next, please. As we further advance the YALB program, by the way, this program used to be called Youth and Adult Literacy and Basic Education. We have rebranded it into Skills Development and Literacy Program just recently with a view to make it more responsive to the needs on the ground. As we further develop this new package or this new brand, we are trying to continuously repackage the program, integrating more sort of elements to make sure that women has this required support and also has a required sort of environment for them to be able to participate. We have seen examples where women and girls even bring along either their siblings or their children to the classrooms. We can't exclude them because they have little children, right? So what we are thinking is to also run simultaneously a sort of community-based EC classes so that they are have that space for them to participate. And the importance of mental health and psychosocial support is also something that we have in mind, and we are further strengthening efforts on that. I can see that Sophia has turned on her video. I will be quick, Sophia. We also, with a view to make the program relevant, we try to work closer with the communities for co-creation of the content and also building synergies with key actors in the sector. We are also trying to understand the impact that we are making in the long run. We are launching a tracer study in the coming weeks to understand the impact that our program made in the past 2 years. The next slide, and which is the last one. In pursuit of promoting accessibility, as I mentioned, we have developed this FAWE program. We are also in the process of developing an online platform with a view to make it also available offline for those who will not be able to participate in person because women's presence in public is prohibited by the current administration. I'll stop here. Happy to respond to any questions you might have, and my contacts are there. So happy to be engaged with colleagues with sort of a similar pursuit and wish.
Thanks a lot, Arjang. Actually, I think there are already questions for all speakers, including yourself. Thanks a lot for your presentation. Actually, I wanted to highlight something that I forgot to say earlier, that your experience also reminds us of the importance of adaptability, to adapt the program not only to respond to the needs of the learners, but also, given the situation there, how we have to repackage the program, redesign, and make it relevant based on the new situation. We saw some similarities also with other programs. The community-based model, the co-creation, as you said, of the content with the learners, but of course it's always different when it comes to a different context. Here I would like also to highlight that it was our pleasure to work together in a lot of these training packages, especially when it comes to intergenerational learning, and we're happy to hear that the work is there. Despite the restrictions and the barriers that you face. And it was very important also to hear from you that you managed still to continue this work by working with local partners to make the content relevant, but also to reach out to more and more learners. Thanks a lot, Arzang. We'll move now, not very far, we'll move now to Pakistan. To hear about the Agahi program of the Citizens Foundation that has taken a different approach, but still equally powerful. We will hear from Ms. Amna Khalid, Executive Advisor of the Citizens Foundation from Pakistan, for her presentation. Thanks a lot. Over to you.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm really excited to be here. So Her Literacy, Her Power, Bridging the Gender Gap in Literacy, sharing with you what the Citizens Foundation has been doing. So Pakistan ranks 5th in the world in terms of population size with over 250 million people. And Pakistan's literacy rate is only 60%, which means that 4 out of every 10 people in this large population cannot read or write. Gender-wise, the literacy is as follows. Males are at 67%, females at 52%, which means that nearly half the women cannot read, and there's an overall 15% literacy gender gap between males and females. Now, Pakistan also has the second highest number of out-of-school children in the world, and this is not unrelated to low female literacy rate, and it indicates how important it is for a country like Pakistan with a large and growing population to have literate females. Literate women are more likely to send their children, especially daughters, to school, to be more actively engaged with the learning process and provide support for community mobilization. So TCF, as we call the Citizens Foundation, was established in 1996, and it currently operates over 2,000 primary and secondary formal school units for over 300,000 less privileged children across the country. The Economist has said that we're perhaps the largest network of independently run schools in the world. And our vision is to remove barriers of class and privilege and make citizens of Pakistan agents of positive change. Our mission is to enable moral, spiritual, and intellectual enlightenment through the power of quality education. So for the past 20 years, TCF has been running a non-formal functional literacy program for girls and women in the communities around its schools. And this program is called Agahi, which means awareness. The curriculum is designed to give girls and women relevant literacy skills, say reading food and medicine labels, road signs, signboards, increasing awareness about health, family, and community issues, how to resolve conflicts harmoniously, And there are the curriculum design is very important, both curriculum design and then the operational design. These are two very important factors which contribute to the success of a program. So there are 4 books that are taught over a 3 to 4 month period. The teaching is phonetics based, and it is designed such that the most frequently used letters are taught first, so that learners start recognizing the characters and then they start using them for reading simple words, so they get engaged in the whole process. This is a summary of the inputs and outcomes for Agahi. So 2 hours a day for 90 days. There are 4 books. There's 1 dedicated teacher and a committed master trainer. And at the end of this, a learner can learn, he learns how to read an Urdu newspaper, write simple letters, can read, sorry, let's just move back, can read food and medicine labels. They get engaged in their children's education, and they can do basic math for household expenses, and they learn to write their name. And they become more aware about basic health and hygiene in their home and in their community spaces. This is a quick overview of the operational design. So each cycle, the Agahi is run in 2 cycles in the year, in January and then again in August. So each cycle is initiated with a registration process where the TCF principal assesses the demand, availability of qualified teachers, and adequate space in the community. She mobilizes the learners, the teachers and the learners, and they jointly, she mobilizes the teachers, and then they jointly, the principal and the teachers, they jointly mobilize the learners. Then the area team selects the master trainers, and then training of the master trainers as well as the teachers is done. Then the training materials are dispatched through the TCF supply chain network. The Agahi teacher conducts the classes, and she sends a daily attendance reporting into our online platform. And that periodically there is a monitor who goes and checks on the centers and fills out a survey form, and even that information gets digitized in centrally online. And then the program team does its periodic visits and fills out its own survey forms, and exams are conducted, the data is collected, and then the phase closure activities start taking place. So to date, classes have been held in over 74 cities across the country, and cumulatively over 250,000 Agahi learners have learned to read and write through this program. One of the critical things to realize is that TCF's formal schooling network has provided the platform and the infrastructure to scale. So this is a very interesting thing, that there is a bone, and then there is a muscle attached to the bone, and that's how the entire organism is able to move and progress. The formal structure as well as a non-formal program. And through this, we are able to do community mobilization, recruitment of teachers, training and monitoring, and we're able to expand our outreach through TCF's own network expansion. And this has been the program's growth trajectory. We've seen that over 30% growth in the number of literacy centers just last year. Our outreach is now over 65,000 learners a year. And we started off this program about 20 years ago with just 50 learners a year. So in 2020, just before COVID hit, we had done an assessment study on Agahi's effectiveness by a third party called SAHI, which is a Society for the Advancement of Education. This study was done for both graduated learners and new learners. They were interviewed across 11 districts. And from this study, we got a better understanding of the power of literacy in our poor communities. Community mobilization. This has been a key ingredient for Agahi. Now, there's a cycle of women supporting women. Initially, this is driven by the efforts of the TCF principals and the teachers on the ground. And by the way, all of our faculty are female at the school. And the mobilization is also done by the Agahi graduates, who then mobilize other women to also join the literacy classes. So Sahi's observations are that by providing access to literacy opportunities to female members, the program has significantly contributed to improved communication at the community level. As more learners, after attending the program, they feel empowered to support their children's and their girls' rights, and also consider literacy education as essential for community uplift. So they're actually going and help. There's an entire circle of mobilization for education happening, both at the informal level and at also the formal level. Now I've left, for every slide, and now I have kept a little links at the bottom in case later on if people would like to see videos, they are most welcome to do that. Another benefit that has happened through this program is increased economic and financial awareness through household budgeting, through better market access by reading messages on mobile phones, as well as being able to read road signs and bus destinations. The third power that literacy brings is awareness with regards to health and hygiene. The curriculum includes how to maintain personal hygiene, food preservation, cleanliness in the home and the community, and common diseases. And health is such an important topic because it affects the ability to earn livelihood and can really stop a family from moving out of poverty. So this has been a big contribution in terms of functional or value added by literacy. The fourth power that literacy brings is promoting social harmony in society. And the curriculum includes content about how to speak nicely to one another and how to resolve issues amicably between people. So there's a positive messaging that takes place through the content that the learners are learning. The fifth power of a literate woman is her commitment to putting her children into school. And the SAHI study indicated that with the non-formal literacy program, more parents in the community are mobilized to send their children to school. And finally, we see that with the mobilization by the TCF faculty of the community women to become literate, and with more literate women putting their children into school, the gender gap in literacy is reducing. So there was an extensive survey of over 100,000 families, TCF families, that was done that shows that the gender gap in literacy between the mother and the father is 70% illiterate and the mothers are 55%. That's 15% gap. But when we looked at the brothers and the sisters, the gap between the brothers and the sisters was less. So that is a very positive sign that we are seeing. And when we look at across the country as well, we also saw a similar trend across Pakistan, wherein the gap, the gender gap in literacy at the younger ages is less. So the higher the older the age, there's a gap is more. But as the younger generation is coming up, there has been much improvement in the literacy rates. So what are some implementation challenges that we faced? Mainly, it has been ensuring that we maintain quality at scale as we expand the program. Another thing that we've encountered is that with the growth, there have been a lot of more younger out-of-school children who are coming into the program, and that's really changing our beneficiary profile. These are children who are now too old to be mainstreamed, and they're looking at non-formal program for learning opportunities. So that's both a challenge as well as an opportunity for TCF to look at. Some of the key lessons that we've learned over the years. The first and foremost is that community trust is important for mobilization. And the TCF Formal School Network, with its support of its on-ground principals and teachers, have really helped in building the trust with the community. The second is that design is important. Both of the curriculum of what is taught in that content and how that content is delivered, as well as how the program is implemented on the ground. It has to be simple. It has to be balanced between what is structured. For example, if there's a daily lesson plan, but yet it has to be flexible enough to meet the requirements of a non-formal program. For example, class timings are flexible and it's agreed upon between the learners and the students and the teachers. The focus has to be on the alignment with values, and this is very important in order to maintain the integrity of the program. And last but not least is that there has to be continuous monitoring on the ground, both through a physical presence surveillance, but also looking at data that comes in and to looking at ways to improve the effectiveness of the delivery. It takes actually $10. That's the beauty of this, $10 per learner to go from being illiterate to literate over a 3 to 4 month period. That's all it costs. And this is an all in all, inclusive of overheads, inclusive of salaries, inclusive of everything. And that takes me to the end of my presentation. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Sophia, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Amna. Actually, we're impressed by the way you linked the keywords of the title of the webinar across your presentation. And actually, you connected a lot with a lot of things that are very important and are not always there. For example, the key characteristics of a strong curriculum, and that has to also be in a line with values. And then here you highlighted like that power of literacy is not only at the cognitive level, but it has to be aligned with the values of the community. And then we see the attitude of the learners within the community. You also highlighted the power of the members of the community in this effort. What is also very interesting is that you highlighted the importance of literacy to be integrated with health, hygiene, as long as with financial literacy, and the long term of this initiative that can lead to an impressive scale and impact. I mean, we're impressed to see how the program grew over the years and the number of the learners that you reached out, and also the learning centers. Thanks a lot, Amna. You are also encouraged to reply to the question of the participants here. Thanks a lot. So we have heard about all these examples, powerful examples from the ground, from Chad, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and now we would like to see to go a bit like deeper, like what are the stories that sit beneath these programs? What do we learn when we sit from counting the learners and classes to listen to the live experiences of the women themselves? Our next speaker brings us to this space. It will turn now to the research perspective that explores how literacy programs can transform not only women's life, but also their family members and their communities. With that, I would like to give the floor to our last speaker, who will share insights from a UK-based research project. I would like here to invite Miss Vicky Duckworth, Professor of Further Education at Edge Hill University in the UK, for her presentation. Vicky, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've very much enjoyed listening to the stories from across the globe. They've been very, very informative. So thank you so much. First of all, I would just like to draw your attention that this presentation links to the SDG 4, quality education, and SDG 5, gender equality in relation to the UNESCO focus. And to provide further context, in England, 18% of adults aged between 16 and 65, which is 6.6 million, can be described as having very poor literacy skills or being functionally illiterate. So there is a high proportion. In relation to what I'm going to be sharing with you this afternoon, I'm drawing on two research projects. The initial one is Learning Trajectories, Violence and Empowerment amongst Adult Basic Skills Learners. This research was carried out in the northwest of England, an area called Oldham, which historically is famous for the Industrial Revolution. That would have been in the 18th century. It's a town of many contradictions. On one side of the town, we have the what may be considered one of the higher percentage in terms of wealth. And on the other side of the town, we have high levels of poverty and deprivation, with a significant proportion of its wards or areas amongst the most deprived, 10% or 20% in England. Almost 2/5, 38% of children under 16 in Oldham live in poverty. Oldham is ethnically diverse, and part of the educational drive is to really promote social cohesion. And literacy is a catalyst for this, because as we've heard within the context of the other speakers and within this presentation, literacy transforms lives, but not just the learners, that of the family and the communities. The other research project was carried out across the UK and aimed at exploring the power of education again to transform lives. Further education was positioned as being socially situated in terms of the teaching and learning. And we wanted to show how the research demonstrates how education offers a real organic transformational tool for consciousness raising and a caring space where hope can act as a change agent that fuels women's lives and in turn teachers' practices. So in relation to notions of literacy, in the UK and indeed internationally, the current discourse around literacy is driven by international surveys that have become increasingly important over the last 25 years. Produced and promoted by a range of agencies, including the OECD, UNESCO, and European Union, and other national governments. They commit to funding based on service, and data are used to decontextualize and compare each country's performance. In this process, views on what counts as literacy are shaped, and literacy is reduced to a unitary measurable factor. However, if we draw on academics such as Street, we can see that literacy is not just autonomous. It's not only a reducible skill, what can be tested through competency assessment and contextualized in this way. If it is viewed in this way, it can be a vehicle for bringing about the symbolic domination of institutionalized literacies, which derive from notions of human capital, economic investment, and return. When framed by such human capital discourses at the level of the individual, literacy becomes reductive. It manifests as a technology for stratifying human beings as embodied labour power and a way of quantifying potential to productivity. This framing also contributes to the stratification of higher prestige literacies, which have an effect of rarefying existing social divisions. And we can see that within the previous speakers' discussions. Through the sorting and eliminations of individuals, it can also impact on the productivity and wealth of the communities and societies which we live. To counteract this, the research that I am going to draw from this afternoon argues that adult literacy education can be positioned within a discourse of transformation. In other words, it can be seen as offering spaces in which individuals can rediscover their agency, an enjoyment of learning, and success as learners that connects with their lives in the outside world including, of course, their employment. We can also see, as addressed previously, the intergenerational impact of literacy. For example, motherhood can act as a catalyst to the women accessing education and harnessing educational experience to a future trajectory in life and work, and helping their children to succeed. It also impacts on health, social cohesion, employability, and of course, importantly, joy. Mental health was also identified as a significant factor. So when we consider research, listening to women's stories is so important. Literacy education research has an important role to play in revealing powerful and, importantly, often hidden social practices and lived human experiences beneath the neoliberal, globalized grand narratives of international competition. Transforming Lives research mobilizes the term transformative teaching and learning to signify educational experiences that are not only student-centered, but which defy, counteract, and work against the neoliberal educational imagery. Together with Professor Rob Smith, our research and approach to adult education and literacy offered a critical pedagogy to work towards social justice and against deficit generating educational structures that marginalise women, their families, and indeed their communities. So stories matter. And it's important to conceptualize literacy through its link with learner identity. Learner stories of how their everyday lives have been shaped by their relationship to dominant literacies during experiences of schooling, and how re-entering literacy education can catalyse positive change in their lives. It can give choices and prospects. Importantly, stories are deeply political. So now I'd like to draw your attention to 3 stories from the Transforming Lives project. Each of these stories can be accessed through the website that was developed as part of the research. I want to start with Sima's story. Sima arrived at college struggling to read and write, and was put on a level 2 literacy program. She had been initially, while she was in primary school, very, very committed, enthusiastic. But unfortunately, she disconnected within secondary school because she really felt marginalized by the teachers and by the system. She felt as though her cultural background was invisible. But however, when she accessed further education and the literacy program, she felt really seen. She felt that she could be herself and her identity was valued. Importantly, from her experience, she went on to do voluntary work within the community. And she went from level 2, and her trajectory led her to be a primary school teacher. And she now teaches in Saudi Arabia, but she also comes back to her hometown of Oldham, and she feeds into the communities as a role model. And I think it's important to point out, as the other speakers have led our attention to, role models are absolutely vital for mobilisation and activism. I would now like to share Marie's story. Marie was brought up in a large family on an estate just on the outskirts of Manchester, where she still lives. She left school at 15 with no qualifications and struggling to read and write. Whilst at school, she'd been labelled and pathologized by the teachers for being poor and coming from what the teachers perceived was a rough family. She describes how she felt looked down upon and like a nobody. She speaks about the power of education to transform her life. From struggling to read and write and arriving at college as a single mother of 3 children, she is now a senior staff nurse in the northwest of England. Literacy classes were a lifeline. They offered her hope, dignity, and for her to have the opportunity to break the cycle of poverty, the intergenerational cycle of poverty. I'd now like to share a video where Marie shares a little bit of her story. Please, can it be shown now? Thank you. I'm just waiting for the video now to be set up. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't think there's any sound. I can't hear any sound on that video. Please, can you put some sound on?
Give us 1 second, Vicky. We'll do that.
Thank you very much. Whilst we're waiting for the video, I would just like to speak to you regarding Marie. All of these videos that are being shown, you can access, and I've chosen a key point where Marie identifies how literacy and returning to education has impacted on her role as a mother, and how it has influenced her notion of education in relation to her son. Thank you. If we can play it now, that would be brilliant, Sophia.
Vicky, if it's not working, we'll put it on the chat. Let's make a last effort.
It's okay if it's not working. We'll just move on to the next. And I would just like to draw, to the people who are viewing this this presentation and to the other presenters, please take the time to listen. I'm sure that you will find it really informative. I think it's really important that when we're sharing stories that we provide the opportunity for the learners to tell the stories in their words, with their accents, with their dialect. Often when research is carried out, transcripts are produced and people draw on quotes. That's really, really good, of course. But using videos as a tool, a methodological tool to capture the stories, allows the voices to be heard in their way. And this was a key drive of the research. The final story is Jackie's story. She returned to education again as an adult and is now a teacher. It allowed Jackie to connect with hope and is drawn upon by the other speakers. Culturally sensitive literacy education has the potential to transform students, teachers, and researchers to become writers of their own educational stories and, moreover, authors of their own lives. Importantly, many of the women in this study have experienced social and economic inequity for most of their lives. They were aware that they have been labelled and stigmatised, But the bonds formed in their literacy classes facilitated them to overcome their experience of past symbolic violence, and importantly, a number of them have experienced physical violence across the journey of their lives. The education system was so powerful. It enabled them to reclaim spoilt identities and to have identities that had dignity, hope. And that dignity and hope fed into their families, into their role as mothers, into their role as sisters, into their role as wives and partners. And it fed into their communities. They were able to mobilize the people around them. And by housing their stories on the website, their stories are now being drawn upon across the UK and internationally. And the Transforming website is now being prepared to be set up in Australia so that the same methodology can be used and the stories across Australia can be drawn together again as a tool for other learners and teachers to draw upon. So I'd like to end by saying,
I will have to cut you because we are running out of time. Could you please
yeah,
summarize?
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. To summarise, it's really important that events like today are held so we can share and connect, and together we can mobilise literacy and to ensure that both locally, nationally, and globally, women are offered opportunities that enrich their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. Thanks a lot. Unfortunately, you were the the last speaker, but we could not cut you. All the speakers shared excellent presentations, and actually, what you already highlighted, the voices of these women are the most important. We can hear the hopes, their challenges, their journey to this learning, the goal of their life, and actually their voices themselves strongly advocate that we have to advance literacy for them. Thanks a lot. These stories we can really promote within our network to highlight the importance of lifelong learning as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vicky. Today's presentation from all these countries, but also from the area of academia, gave us a very rich and diverse picture. Thank you for joining us and staying with us until the end. We'd like to thank all the speakers, but also all the participants for their contributions, their comments, and their thoughts. And also I would like to highlight the importance of all the colleagues that worked behind the scenes for this session to be possible. Before we close, we would like to invite you to join us on the next webinar on the 2nd of July, and within the context of Global Alliance for Literacy on the topic financial literacy for adults. At the same time, you can see the link for your registration on the chat, but also you can register for the whole series of the UIL offering these thematic webinars. Thanks again for your active participation, all your thoughts which you shared across today's session. Would like to give next appointment in the 2nd of July, and we look forward to welcome you soon in our next events. Thanks a lot and goodbye.